Do you realize that you cannot actually confirm your negative assessment held about our racial group based upon your own individual experiences? Those of you who think that you have are delusional because it's not humanly possible to accurately assess the collective state of millions of people based upon anyone's individual experiences. It's not humanly possible. Those who insist that they've confirmed their negative assessment about us does so because once a false belief has been successfully embedded into the human mind, the person will then only notice those incidents that appears to confirm the false embedded belief and will become psychologically blinded from noticing the greater amount of evidence refuting the false embedded belief. Then, based upon this psychological blindness, he will insist that he has confirmed it himself that the embedded belief is true, although it is in fact not. Because we've been socialized to put more value into being holy rather than being critical thinkers, we are therefore easy victims of those who have studied instead how the mind works and how to imprison the mind. White oppressive forces have thoroughly studied how to hijack the group minds of targeted populations through their monopoly over information. They then exploited their monopoly over information that the Black population received to create an elaborate prison for our minds. It's the real Black people's matrix. If you think that this is some silly conspiracy theory, it's because you don't know the true underlying relationship that presently exists between the white establishment and the Black population. While the oppressors, through their weaponry advantages of rifles, guns, and cannons, were able to brutally invade, enslave, and colonize Africans, they, however, cannot win our loyalty or sustain peace with us indefinitely unless our minds are manipulated to allow that to happen. Because whenever people are oppressed for long durations, their collective aggressions against their oppressors will continue to escalate until massive retribution and rebellion against the oppressors becomes inevitable. The oppressed always eventually rebels when held under long-term oppression. It's the inherent response within the collective human psyche. The only way to prevent this inherent response is by shifting the collective aggressions of the oppressed away from their oppressors and redirecting it towards and against ourselves. White oppressive forces determined a long time ago that this could be obtained by constantly subjecting Black people to receiving only the worst possible narratives about ourselves. By doing so, they could demoralize us, divide us, create Black self-loathing, and shift Black collective aggressions away from the white oppressive society and redirect it against ourselves. Furthermore, they determined that as long as they keep us within this collective condition, they can then rule over us forever. It's the true reason why virtually all information that we receive about ourselves from white sources are consistently negative. When critically thinking, can you not see just how cartoonishly unrealistic this scenario actually is? It's an elaborate perception management system that keeps the Black masses believing the fraudulent, worst possible narratives about ourselves as a means of preventing us from unifying ourselves against the oppressive society. Perception management is a propaganda technique that involves altering the perceptions of a targeted population to think in ways that are against their own self-interest and that instead serve the interests of those who are deploying the perception management system. In our case, all oppressors. The fact is, all of our narratives, statistics, and mainstream media images are controlled exclusively by our oppressors. They therefore literally owns our perception of ourselves. This gives them immense power over us. They've transformed this unfair scenario into the greatest weapon used against us. People are easily controlled by the information they routinely receive about themselves. When people constantly receive positive, affirming information about themselves, this unifies them and uplifts them. It can even give them the confidence they need to stand up against their oppressors. However, to the contrary, whenever people are constantly inundated with negative, demoralizing information about themselves, this causes the exact opposite effect to happen. This demoralizes them, this divides them, and it also makes them self-doubting, which causes them to lose confidence within themselves. This loss of confidence makes them more reluctant to take a stance against the oppressors. Moreover, it creates self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds the people, and they can then be ruled over forever. This is the psychological warfare tactic that is being deployed against us unrelentingly by white oppressive forces. It utilizes the immense power that shame has upon the human mind to mentally enslave millions of Black people. Those of us who do not critically think never notices our mental chains. The cause of our plighting condition, our mental collective state, has never been a silly Willie Lynch myth. Don't dispute facts you don't understand for a silly slave syndrome myth. Doing so will keep you mentally enslaved by your oppressors. The truth of our plight and condition has always been psychological warfare that's being deployed against us unrelentingly through the white society's monopoly over information that are fed into our minds. Those of us who tell you the truth are trying to free you from a mental prison that you don't even know you're trapped within. We have to learn of this social science, how it works, in order to develop the proper kind of strategies to liberate ourselves from it. Those who keeps you believing in the Willie Lynch myth are keeping you mentally enslaved or keeping your mind dumbed down. It's time to learn the truth of our plight and condition. Because if our understandings remains flawed, then all of our remedies that stem from those misunderstandings will also remain flawed. Our plight has nothing to do with a silly slave syndrome myth. That's not how you control a people for generation. That myth presents what would in fact be the least plausible method used for controlling generations of people. You in fact would have to be ignorant of how brainwashing works to believe that we're being controlled by Willie Lynch. I've just presented to you the truth. It's time to function based upon the truth. One love and peace.